So yeah, just to introduce myself, I'm here to present to you. I don't want to give too much away, but I know that you've already had the handouts. That's basically not really to summarise what I'm going to talk about today, though there is a leaflet in there about it. That's just a general overview of, if you're breeding, what things are available to you. Not necessarily me, but just sowing the seed in your brain that you might be able to get those services from wherever you are, because I know some of you are from far distant land, so I'm not the person. But, right, thank you. So, I've got a secret to share with you that's going to unlock your dog breeding potential. That's going to fast track your breeding programme. So actually, hands up, who breeds here? Excellent. Who hasn't yet bred but might do? Brilliant. See, got the right audience. And this will encourage superior breeding practices. So the world of canine reproduction has progressed significantly. It's almost been fast-tracked in the last 8 years for sure, if not 10 years. The old age of sort of chucking 2 dogs in the garden and then just getting on with it doesn't really happen nowadays. It does happen, and that's great, but I wouldn't bank on that's the way that you're going to get a litter of puppies. So I would recommend that you have a plan sort of A, B, C, D, E, F. Thank you. So who am I? This is a cute little picture of me.
I did like when you said it to me.
I was like, am I oversharing? Possibly. And you've got my date of birth, so identity theft, come get me. But basically, I just wanted to share with you how I've got to do what I'm doing now. And I'm just a dog owner, like you guys are, so I'm not any more fancier than that. But how my sort of development into the canine world, well, accumulated. It wasn't never planned, but it kind of happened, which is probably the same with you guys. But yeah, I was born in 1982. That's me. I'm Sara Lamont. That's me on the same sofa 6 years later. I had no clue. That's me with my first bulldog. You've seen me trundling with one because she's a puppy and I can't trust her at home. But yeah, so I've lived with dogs knowingly since I was 6 years old, so I'm definitely a dog person. That's Tina. That's a nicer picture of Tina rather than just her bum. So some other stuff that I got involved with is that actually in 1997 I started showing purely by accident because it was my older brother that wanted a dog, went to go and buy a dog. The breeder said, do you want a show one or a pet one? And obviously the show one's going to be better, which isn't the case at all, as we know. But we said, oh yeah, we'll have a show one. And then from that point onwards, sort of life was history. I got sucked into the whole, I only just scraped into the junior handling brackets. I was soon out of it. I think I started handling at 13, 14. That's my best female, my best dog that I bred there, that I'm super proud of, because not only did I breed her, I bred her mum and her dad, so a sire and her dad. So she is all my blood. She was top bulldog 2013, Crufts best of breed winner. She won Crufts 3 years, 3 consecutive years, which no other female's done that. So going from never owned, well, just having dogs in the house to then having my name on a top dog, how does that happen? Well, ultimately the only way to kind of get the best dogs is to breed them. By default, I did manage to buy a champion, but obviously he wasn't a champion at the time, so you can still buy good dogs. But recently, having moved into other breeds, I find it quite difficult, the concept of I don't get to keep or pick the puppy that I want. So when I have to go to another breeder and I'm like, but I want that one. And they're like, yeah, but that's first pick, but I want that one. So what I'm going to cover today is how some simple ideas and concepts, if you decide to take them on board, could totally change your breeding programme. So here I am with, so I bred my first litter in 99, my current litter this year, this little puppy here is that little puppy over there, and this was quite a big deal, this breeding, so I am a person that will embrace science. So this litter is actually from a frozen semen. He actually died 2013. And they're born nearly 10 years later. So I've just got 2 girls who would have loved a dog on the beach, but I'm not going to moan in any way, shape or form. So yeah, the sire died in 2013. The dam was born 2017. And yeah, I've got a litter of pups for them. So I'm all for, I'm not going to cover frozen semen collection today, but I strongly recommend, if you have a stud dog, that you do it, because that just could be invaluable in 10, 15, 20 years time. So for what it costs, I think no more than £400 or £500. No more than £400 or £500 to actually collect it and freeze it, and then to store it, less than £100 a year. Your breeding programme in 10 years time could be totally changed by that. So I'm all for it. Any half decent dog that you've got, I personally would be doing it. I've even got frozen for a dog that's not sired anything yet, so I was just like, well, he's good, let's use it. And don't leave it too late to do either. Catch them like while they're in their prime, 2 years plus. So I'm mainly involved in English Bulldogs. I say English Bulldogs because it should just be Bulldogs, but I've got used to saying English Bulldogs now because they're not French Bulldogs. I also have a Labrador or something different, and I also co-own American Bullies, which the concept that I have in my head I will be using on the American Bullies. So that's just about me, how I've got to where I am now as a breeder. Next button, thank you. And then so professionally, how have I got here? So previously I've worked in a learning and development arena, so basically anything from corporate, like Bupa International, Total Gas and Power, to public, Surrey Police, to Close Brothers Asset Management, like a lot of companies just doing stand-up, training people. Could be anyone from someone new in the door to management level to I can't train you, let's find somebody else that can. So I'm used to chatting and talking quite a lot, which I do quite easily. Then I decided that actually, whenever I used to get bored in jobs quite quickly, I admit that, 18 months, and I'd be like, what's the next thing? And the recruitment people said to me, why don't you just do the dogs? Because I had like on my CV, obviously the dogs were part of my, I was like, no, that's a hobby that I enjoy. I don't really want to do that as a business. But the upshot of that is I actually decided to set up a business supporting other breeders breeding their dogs. So originally it started as Home Scan in 2013, which is a mobile scanning service to confirm whether a female's pregnant or not. I'm pretty good at it. I can give you due dates. I'm pretty good with the numbers, so I'm quite proud of that. I had some stats. What is it? I've scanned nearly 5,000 dogs. I've microchipped over 4,000 dogs or cats, and I stepped into the reproduction side. So I now progesterone ovulation tests for people, so they know when to breed. I've run over 2,500 tests of those. So since 2013, so I'm pretty busy. I've got a breeding waiting for me when I get home tonight, because as we know, bloods need to be done when they need to be done, and dogs need to be bred when they need to be bred. And so the upshot of that was I set up Canine Family Planner, which is basically the advice side. So a lot of people, though I do the face-to-face service, and actually have other people do that for me as well now, I actually set up the sort of whole separate brand of just giving advice to any dog owner on any reproduction stuff. I'm not a vet, I'm not a vet nurse, I've trained with vets, and I have a good relationship with the local vets around me, and if it's something I can't deal with, I don't know the answer to, I'm just like tapping out, go and speak to X, Y and Z. So I'm the sort of the gap in between of the person that actually breeds, actually bred a hard breed, knows the repro stuff, so I try and connect the pieces. I actually published 2 books, so one earlier this year and one in 2019, and they literally answer all the questions that I get asked. So I thought, well, the easiest thing was just to put it into a book. So from 2019 was Not Born Yesterday. That's from once they're scanned in pup to when pups go to new home, because I deal with not just the variety of breeders I deal with, can be show people, working kennels, accidental litters that are due and people freaking out. So it's the whole variety of questions. And then doggy style, obviously I was going to call it that, sums up the type of person I am, is the bit before that. So it's anything from deciding to breed your female to scanning her in pup, and everything, all the considerations for the male and the female that need to be taken into account. So yeah, they're on Amazon if you're interested. They're very, Book of the Bitch is a great book. Who's got that? Yeah, everyone there. Most people have got that. It's a good book. It's dated. Mine's very conversational. It's very story based. It's not facts and figures and textbook. Pardon?
1 second. Right.
I have got some, but
No, they're going out in a minute. You're going to give me a number in a minute between 1 and 100. In fact, do it now. Give me a number.
59.
59. Tom, come and collect. Give me the number.
81.
Stuart Davis, come and collect. There you go. 2 signed copies
Right.
from Sara. Have you brought any to sell?
I have got a few.
There were gifts off Sara.
Thank you.
I have got a few with me. If you want some, are obviously around, so that's fine. And obviously, like, if you Google caninefamilyplanner.com, you'll find me. Just send me an email. Like, that's what it's there for. So yeah, so that's all about me. So what concept have I got here that I keep banging on to my customers to get them to do, to convince them that it will help them? Oh, she's giving it away. Oh. Honestly, can't get the staff.
One more.
One, that's it. So what's going to unlock your dog breeding potential, fast track your breeding programme and encourage superior breeding services? Drum roll. Dual side litters, okay? So this is so a dual or multiple, so it could be more than 2, I've never heard of that, but a dual or multiple side litter is when a female conceives to 2 or more individual males and whelps a litter with puppies sired by both. So has anyone heard of this? Yeah? Yeah, oh, good. Has anyone done this?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Yes. Okay, just let me know how. What was the backstory?
And I wanted to pass forward for breeding, and I put both dogs to her, and she had 2 puppies and 1 mixed dog.
Cool.
Excellent. And you as well? Yeah.
I've just done it.
Yeah.
The father and the son.
Yeah.
And I'll know in beginning of December, but by insemination.
Right. TCI or transvaginal? Just
Insemination.
ordinary. Yeah. Okay. And was yours mated naturally or?
No, I was.
2 AIs. Okay. And you did, what did you do? What was the process? Did you collect from one, collect from the other, mix it all up, put it in, or do one and
I did 1 day, the next day.
one day, next day? Excellent. Oh, brilliant. Oh, I'm really pleased with that. Well, well done for getting the 50-50. Fingers crossed for you. So, well, I'm glad people are on this, because to me this could be a definite game changer.
Sarah, one of the things I was advised to do was to use the older dog first and the younger dog second.
Yeah, probably because we'll come on to that. Yeah, we'll come on to that. Thank you. So why dual sire? Lots of dots on this one. So it's going to increase your gene pool. So specifically for you guys, when I was asked or approached about, can you talk about something, dog reproduction, I could have picked out 1,000 different things. But to me, I think if you're working with a small gene pool, if you've got a vulnerable or rare breed, this will increase your gene pool quicker. It's going to put more genetic variation into your breed faster, which ultimately the Kennel Club like a low coefficient, inbreeding coefficient, so the more dogs there are, the more chances you can pick a dog that's not near yours, so you can lower your coefficient. And we never know in the future, there'll be a new DNA test that pops up that we've all got to start testing for, to get away from X, Y and Z, and the more dogs you have to be able to pick from, the easier that's going to be able to do. And that's why I'm not a massive fan of a popular stud dog is great, but ultimately they kind of kill the breed with kindness in the long run. So it's all well and good jumping on a hot dog, but going forward in the breed, sometimes you can retrospectively look back and go, oh, we lost this, this and this, pretty much because of that dog. Yeah, he gave us these things. So I'm all for trying to keep your genetic diversity as wide as possible. Restricted breeding opportunities. So if you have, particularly for like show females, if you're showing a female, when do you decide your campaign is strong and she's doing well? When do you decide to pull her out to have her pups? And is she going to be back in show condition to get her back in the ring again? So sometimes your window of breeding opportunity is really reduced. So by using 2 stud dogs, and for instance, the female, my best female, I pulled her out at 3.5, she had a litter, showed her again, thankfully, and then pulled her back out. But if I had dual sired her on both litters, and I only had 2 litters from her, literally I had 2 litters, but the fact of if I dualed and I had 4, the opportunities that would have given me going forward with that line is untold. So for any females that have a smaller window, just because of the purpose that you have them, if you're showing them, or you might have an aging male that you think, well, it might be, he's old, we don't know if it's going to work or not, we haven't tested him. By doing a dual, at least you're hopefully going to get some pups rather than a total miss. You might have some of the breeds like English Mastiff, they probably won't entertain breeding that till it's 3-4 years old, and then they're old by 6.5, 7. So they have, like the giant breeds have a compressed breeding window that's available to them. So dual siring litters would be their advantage as well. Literally ask me any questions as we go through if you're not sure on anything. Fail fast, so this is a bit of a sort of business term, but if you are breeding for a certain type or a certain colour or trend, or there's all crazy stuff that goes on at the moment with some dog breeds, by dual siring, you will fail fast. So you're breeding twice as fast. So if it doesn't work, you're going to find out quicker. It's kind of, with breeding, we can't beat time. Like it is, we have to wait, and rightly so, till a bitch is old enough to be bred from. Yes.
I understand all that, but you have got restrictions on having you, because you're sort of relying on having to be a bigger breeder, because when you do dual sire, the whole point is you want both the bloodlines, so it means you've got to keep at least 2 puppies from a litter to run them on. So then you're going to come into complications that you're keeping so many dogs each time, you're then going to run into breeding licenses and things like that as well.
Yeah, totally. But any breeding program needs dog management. I've seen people come into a breed and go from 0 to 8 dogs in a year. Yeah, exactly, because you're like, this is crazy. So you need to be selective, but equally, you're going to know the fail fast. If something doesn't make the grade, you're going to know it sooner, and then you think, okay, that's cool, let's pet home that one. Or, I mean, nowadays people do all sorts. They do co-owns and guardian homes and all kinds of jazzy stuff. So it depends. Yeah, I totally agree, you're going to have more dogs quicker, but then it doesn't mean that they're all going to get used within your program anyway.
But it's nice to be aware that when you're doing it, you've got to sort of be in a position where the facilities to run these puppies, or doing it if you're in a one-bedroom apartment.
No, totally. But then, well, I was going to say big breeders, yeah. And to be fair, I'm like, you don't have to be a big breeder. Some of the cleverest kennels that I work with is because they plan stuff. It isn't a matter of keeping every puppy in the litter. They're doing a set breeding for a set purpose. They're picking that set type. And, you know, I go to places and I'm like, how many dogs you got? 78. And I'm like, oh my God, I could not imagine having 78 dogs all at one time. But then equally, a top breeder that's got no more than 6. So it's just being selective, and it all depends. Some people like to breed their females, find them a nice sofa with somebody else. Some people know their dog's their dog and they're staying forever. Some people, that's when like a co-own might work because, okay, you've got full breeding rights on that female, but she's not taking up a space that you need to worry about. So it literally is the type of person, yeah, and I truly you don't have to be big to have an impact on the breed. You just have to be clever with you just have to have a vision and aim ahead for it, and some people will appreciate what you're doing and some people won't give a monkeys, but that's pretty much life. But yeah, definitely breeding license, it's all just such a really grey, murky area at the moment anyway. I advise no one to apply for it because I think it pushes people to breed commercially and make dogs live commercially, and that's not what. I tell everyone, I tell everyone, my clients, don't bother with breeding license, just have your accounts. Keep every dog receipt, every bit of money you spend on the dogs, because that's ultimately, they're thinking you're making loads of money, and as we know, if you do anything properly, you rarely do. And if you did, you're probably just going to spend it back on the dogs anyway. Or at least set your dogs up for the next X number of years for your stud fees and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm not for breeding licence, but I do believe everyone should have financial accounts on their dogs, regardless if it's 1 or 10. But yeah, if you're breeding for a particular trend, colour, type, jaw, head, ear set, whatever, you're going to find that out quicker by doing dual sire breedings. And the final one, substandard fertility. So at the back there where someone did the jaw and they used the older dog first, you're assuming, yeah, once the dog gets to a certain age, it's not, it does depend on how often he's been used previously, when he last sired a litter, but the males can be a bit like a ticking time bomb. It just, when it switches off, it goes off. And what it is generally the abnormality rate increases. So he will still generally produce the same concentration, the same amount of semen, but he just can't swim nowhere because he's just got 2 heads or crooked neck or curly tail. So even if you handle your dogs yourselves and you visually collect it and have a look, it might look okay, but you just literally can't swim anywhere. So that might be another reason. You've got a lovely boy, but he's questionable facility, then you might want to use one as a backup as well. So you're going to get some pups rather than no pups. So what are the drawbacks? So multiple fees and logistics. So stud fees, if they're not your dogs, then there's going to have to be a conversation there. I would personally push for I'll give you a handling fee for the time, energy, effort that this is going to take, and then once we know that your dog has produced some pups in this litter, then yeah, pay the stud fee. Logistics of having 2 males and a female in the same place at the same time. You could have it could be more flexible if people are dealing with chilled semen. I wouldn't necessarily say that that's the right thing to do in this instance. I think you kind of want everyone at the same place at the same time. So yeah, how realistic is that going to be? Who knows? Some DNA testing costs. So anywhere that allows dual sire litters to be registered, you will have to DNA test all the parents, both sires, the dam and all the puppies. You can't. I did once have a Shih Tzu breeder say to me, we did a dual, collected from this one and this one, really basic dual sire, and she said, oh, I know who sired who by the colours of the puppies. So I don't know the outcome of that, but when you register them, you're going to have to DNA test them, so it's just cost that needs to be factored in. Success rate. So this is the big sort of, no one knows the success rate of this kind of stuff. So we're literally, to a degree, playing in the dark. Are we coming up to 11? Are we? Oh, that's it. Fine. Yeah, we're playing in the dark as to there is no gold standard best practice. This should be how it's done. So no one knows whether it's you cover the bitch one day, you miss a day, you cover the day, whether you do it an hour apart, 20 minutes apart, whether you collect from the dogs, you mix it all up and you AI it in, whether you AI them 40 minutes. There literally is no gold standard. This is the way to do it. So to a degree, you need to know that you're inseminating or breeding at the right time. So fertility, ovulation testing needs to happen. So again, that's additional cost if that's not something you normally do. And then, yeah, what's the process of making sure we make it as successful as possible. I'm going to come on to some of the things that might impact success rate in a minute, but also, yeah, check your registry. So as far as I know, FCI, but put me right if I'm wrong, FCI don't actually allow dual side litters as far as I know. They do now. Okay, that's cool. Well then, that's brilliant. Then get on with it. As far as I knew, pretty much AKC did, Kennel Club do, ABKC do, all the rest of it, but that's good. So that's excellent because there's no reason why they shouldn't really, because it is only going to increase the gene pool, so it should be allowed. So that's good. So, but just check with your registry before you go and do it that it can be done. So what's the best method? So the whole point of when you're breeding is that you want to give everybody the best chance possible. So to me, if you want a dual side litter, you need to give both studs the same chance. Yeah, 50-50 chance. That's what I'm hoping, because we want 50-50 litter. So how is that? With a natural mating, I've heard of it happening accidentally, and I believe when these kind of things happen, it's generally an accidental, is either at least one or two of the stud dogs live in the same household plus the female. Now to me, even if it's just one female, one male, and they went and used the stud and then their own stud caught the female when they got home, two of the dogs are living in the same environment, and generally that means their body, because they're eating the same food, they're drinking the same water, their pH levels are probably quite similar. So has anyone had their dog's semen fertility checked? Yeah. Okay, generally on a fertility check, not all, but some people will check the pH level of the semen. What can become apparent is that if you were to do an AI with two different males, if one semen collection is more acidic than the other, it's just going to kill the other semen off. And so that's how it ends up being. People try it and it doesn't work, and it's because literally one is more acidic and it kills them off. So on a natural mating, as I say, if you own both males, they're probably running at the same pH level, and that's why that tends to work, because they're just all in the same environment. pH level is quite good, assuming they're young dogs or, you know, roughly the same age and that kind of thing. I have no recommendation of, if I was to do a natural dual sire breeding, how would I do it? I would probably, well, I wouldn't on a natural personally, but if I was, yeah, ovulation test, it kind of makes sense to use, if they're not fertility tested boys, to use the older one first and then the younger one second. That ticks some basic boxes of just assuming that their collection, what quality it's going to be. If it's artificial insemination, which I have done for people, I would strongly recommend that the person that's doing it knows the fertility status of both boys as a rough benchmark. So when it happens, they can put them in make it as even as possible. So for example, so I had a guy with an American bully that wanted to do a dual sire on a female's last breeding, and both stud dogs, popular stud dogs. When it came, so we didn't do any pre-checks, but when it actually come to doing it, one boy's concentration was crazy low. And so I ultimately didn't want to AI more than 8 mil into this female. So I wanted effectively 4 mil from one, 4 mil from the other. But the problem is the concentration wasn't the same for it to be 50-50. What I ended up having to do was collect 8 mil from one dog, and I could spin it down, basically draw off the stuff I don't need, little sperm pellet at the bottom. I can put that back in a semen extender to make the pH level nice and balanced. But the other boy, I had to collect 40 mil to get the concentration of these two dogs the same, which was a time-bound exercise. So it put the pressure on a little bit, and that literally wasn't in the equation. And this boy, he's been kicking out some big litters, but his concentration was just so low, and I wanted to put in the best possible sample with the highest possible concentration from both boys. But what I also took into account with doing artificial is I looked at their motility and I looked at their death rate. So I had to visually think, well, actually, if one boy looks like he's got 80% progressive motility, so 80% of it's swimming in a nice straight line to get to the egg, but the other boy's only got 60, then I'm going to have to put less in of the stronger boy to give them a 50% chance. So we can get, this is where I'm really thankful that I have Isabel that works with me, who's got a PhD in biochemistry, something or other, and she made up an amazing spreadsheet. I was like, this is kind of what I need, how do we do it? And she did it for me. But yeah, so for me, as an artificial, if you want it to be successful, it's not just a case of sticking two dogs together or just collecting and hoping for the best. I would personally have them pre-fertility checked, so you roughly know what they're sitting at, and then have someone that's a bit on the ball that can make it as 50-50 as possible. And so with those boys, even though I collected 8 mil from one and 40 from another, which is crazy, we still only, I think we inseminated 9 mil in the end, which was a bit more than what I wanted, but we balanced the pH level by using a semen extender, and they were different pH levels, both of these. So in this situation, everybody lived in a different place. The female lived somewhere different, and both stud dogs lived somewhere different. And I even asked, what food are they on, hoping that they might all be on the same food. They're all on different food. Someone was raw, someone was kibble, and it was the boys, when we pH checked them, they were at different levels. So the upshot of that was the female had quite a low, she'd never had big litters previously anyway, but he did end up with 6 puppies, 4 from one stud dog, 2 from the other, a dog and a bitch in each one. So he was more than happy that he had enough in his breeding programme to carry on going forward. So this is definitely something that I'll be doing. What you've got to factor in as well is the actual breed, and is it worth doing on a Chihuahua that's going to carry 2-3 puppies? Probably not. Is it worth doing on a Labrador that can carry 8? 10, yeah. So it's one of those factoring in the size of your female as well, what kind of, if she's previously had litters, how big were they, to know what percentage you might get from it. I've got a bulldog that literally gave me 1 pup and then 2 pups, so there was no point dual siring her. But like I said, I've got an American Bully. All my American Bully breedings, I will be dual siring everything, because I want to test the process myself. But yeah, so I think there's one more. Oh no, it's not one more. I didn't put a full stop. Okay, so that's it. That was my secret to share with you. I'm glad that people are already doing it and it's worked, which is great. I think it's definitely something we should be doing more, especially if you're in a genetically small breed, or you're just want to be quite a progressive breeder, and there's something that you're aiming for, a type that you want, and you want to carve it out quite quickly, then I think that's the way to do it. Any questions? No?